I know this has been probably a couple of years ago during the campaign for governorship a couple of years ago. It was talked in terms of putting tolls at the North Carolina line, and maybe Virginia and North Carolina could, share the cost as well as share the revenue. I'm sure this year's an election year in North Carolina for governor, so there's probably not going to be much action taken by that group
in
the next couple of years.
Mr. Chairman, North Carolina's proposal that they've put out to the public is similar to somewhere in the middle of some of the ones we looked at, where they've got a toll every 20 miles on the interstate with their proposal that they've taken out is what they think they're going to move forward with on the application. I don't know if that's where they're going to land when they do their final application, but that's their, for lack of better words, preferred tolling scenario that they've taken to the public.
I know as you travel the road, you see a lot of signs, homemade signs on the road that's really against the tolls. So that's going to be interesting in next year as to how it plays out. Any other questions, comments from the board? Go ahead.
Mr. Estes, I'm not sure if you know, but the Potomac River Bridge, which is the Maryland side, they used to have the same thing you're talking about. I think you could buy 10 passes for like half price or something like that. So it's something that has been done, and maybe that's what we can look at.
Absolutely. We have an incentive program right now on Coleman Bridge, going down 17. And maybe not as aggressive as what I think the community might like to see, but we have seen those to come in place. And there's a lot of variations out there that we're studying right now that people have implemented successfully. Thank you.
Good luck. Just keep the toes out of Caroline. That's all I ask you of you at this point. Thank you. Appreciate you coming out and certainly presenting the board to the board.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I appreciate your time and interest in this topic. And if there's anything else that you think of later, obviously Mr. Culley knows how to get a hold of me.
Okay.
And I appreciate it again.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks. Next, we have on the agenda is appointments, and I do not have my Emergency Services Commission appointment for tonight, so I'd ask that we pass over that. The next is Community Policy and Management Team. And you have in your board packet what has been recommended.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept the appointments as presented in the board packet.
Motion by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Thomas, that we accept the appointments as presented by staff. It does list the individuals along with the area that those people represent.
And this is for the Community Policy Management Team only.
That is correct. I'm sorry if I said government services. I didn't mean that. All right. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. And the motion is carried. Is there a motion to approve consent agendas B through N? Or is there an item that any board member wishes to pull?
I've got a couple.
Mr. Thomas.
Second, I lost my page. I would like to pull, just I need further clarification on H.
H.
And I think E we're basically saying we're not going to do, so just H. Just
Okay.
H.
All right.
I would like to, I have a question about one of the warrants on B.
All right. B.
Oh, the $7 million.
Are there any others? Is there a motion to approve C, D, E, F, G, I, J, K, L, M, N?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Black, that we approve the portion of the consent agenda that I just mentioned. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. And the motion is carried. Let's start at the top. Mr. Taylor, approval of warrants.
Yes, I was looking through the warrants, Mr. Chairman, and I see where we advertise quite heavily in the Carolina Progress. If you look through, I think page 11, page 69, and a few other pages, we have quite a bit of advertising here. The concern that I have is this publication takes many opportunities to criticize the board. I'm not saying that a publication shouldn't report the news. I think they should. But I don't think they should use that position as an opportunity to put down the board or to create issues for the board as far as in the public is concerned. I have a concern about that. Clearly, we have probably spent, I don't know, $1,600, $1,700 last month alone in advertising. And I would just like that publication to consider what it says about the board, not talking about the facts. If you're going to report what the board decides and how the board votes on an issue, that's fine. If you're going to report news, but there have been a number of occasions where this publication has just spoken ill of the board, used its power to degrade the board and create issues for the board, and I have concern about that. And if we are going to work not only with this publication, but any publication, if we're going to spend money and be one of the persons who work with them, then I think we should be treated better. And that's just my concern. I'm not saying don't pay the bill. I'm just saying that if we're going to do business with this publication, I would like to see a little bit better reporting as far as the board is concerned. That's my concern.
All right. Have we, I'm sure we have from time to time, looked at the pricing of, we're required to put in public notices into a local paper or a paper that's generated in the area, local area. So I'm sure that's the reason we have certainly we use the Carolina Progress. I don't know about the cost. That's what they're concerned. Certainly, we want to do it as effectively and efficiently as we can. Have we looked at other publications and gotten rates on other publications on what it would cost for the various public notices we have to put in the paper?
We haven't done that at this time since I've been here. However, in my experience, as you move to larger newspapers, the rates go up significantly. We can certainly take a look at
I think it's always good to
freelance
look at what the opportunities are that we have out there. But so let's just do that.
We can certainly look, but I imagine they'll be higher. But
And,
we'll look.
and very well probably will be, but let's just.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, my issue is not the cost. My issue is I just feel like the treatment is biased. And that's my opinion. I don't know if other board members feel that way or not, but there have been a number of articles that I felt were written in a way that was not very objective.
Mr. Taylor, in my years in this position, I've always felt and certainly have come to truly understand that when someone buys the ink by a barrel and I buy it in a fountain pen, there's absolutely no way I can compete with them. They're going to have the advantage over me. So that is something we're not going to be able to control, and we never will be able to control. I'm looking at it from a cost-effective issue, and basically that's it. My other thought, to be honest with you, is the fact that and I'm not talking about any particular paper. I'm saying the news media in general. They can say what they want to about me. That's fine. I know who I am. The people that are close to me know who I am. The people that I represent, for the most part, I believe know who I am, or they wouldn't have elected me 7 times. And so from that standpoint, it doesn't really bother me a lot. Yeah, it may make me upset for a minute or 2 or 5 minutes, but after that, I forget about it and move on and don't even give it a second thought. So, but I understand where you're coming from. All right, so we'll put that back on the to be approved. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. On H, first of all, I thought the school budget was 35 million and change, and we had, or I had in discussion, added in the $4 million of debt service. But it appears that the budget is actually $40 million without that debt service payment. So I would just like a little clarification, please.
It was 40 million before. The debt service is our debt service, not the school's debt service, as far as how it's recorded
Right.
in all the funds. This is strictly the school's operating fund and their special grant funds. Has
Okay.
nothing to do with the debt service.
Right, right, and that's why I was concerned. So the special fund revenues, as it references here, are grant funds that you're talking about?
They're grant funds.
Okay, and those grant funds were in the budget that they presented to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so their budget is without any debt service at all, $40 million.
Yes, sir, because the debt service is our debt service, not theirs.
Well, we need to fix that because it's actually.
Well, I mean, as far as
Yeah, I
in
mean,
our
as far
funds,
as,
yes.
as far as reporting, we do, but I think to get a truer picture and understanding of the contributions for schools, we need to have that debt service. I mean, the
But
county's
how
going to pay
you
for
have
it.
to adopt your budget is this way. You cannot put the debt service in here under the schools. It has to stay under the debt service fund
For this year.
for any year because your debt service is required by law to be
To be paid from the
recorded in
county.
the debt service
Okay.
fund only.
Okay, okay. We just need to make sure that we identify that a particular portion of the county's debt service is going towards schools, which is not your responsibility, it's ours, and I'm sure we're not doing a good job of doing that. But okay, so we're actually at 40 million period, plus the 3.6 in debt service, so it's really almost 44 million, or it is 44 million,
Yes, sir.
total contribution. Okay. I appreciate that clarification.
Can I ask one question to Mrs.? I'm not sure who this summary, executive summary came from, whether it came from your office, Mr. Cully, or it came from you. I want to make sure that I understand which number is correct. If you look at, on the back of that page, Mr. Cully, at the very top, and it says change from the previously adopted 11,216,270, 215 million operating and 66,270 payment for school bus lease. The numbers don't add up there?
It's a typo.
Okay, so it is a typo. All right, so it's 215 plus the 66, or is it 216 plus the 66?
The correct number is 11 to 16, 270,000 is the
That-
total contribution.
Including the 66,
Yes,
270?
that includes
Okay.
the 66.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions about that? Okay, I'm sorry.
I
thought
think
you
I won't.
finished.
No, that was just to understand, first of all, where the other one is the expenditures.
Yes, sir.
Because we appropriate by category, and I am not sure, well, I'm sure this is not the school board's categories, this probably came from the superintendent, because I cannot adopt this budget as it is, because we've got a category called reduction, which is not a category. So,
The reduction, that's how you adopted the budget back in June, because I did
Right.
not have their final numbers. What
And-
you all
and-
are amending is to take that number out and apply it to the different categories as was presented by the school board.
and that's the actual school board
Yes, sir.
approved numbers. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm happy, thank you.
Okay? All right. Thank you, Mrs. Hatcher. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda item B and H?
So moved.
Is there a second?
One second.
Motion by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Thomas, that we approve consent agenda item B and H. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay, and the motion is carried. The board is going to take a 15-minute recess. Board will reconvene. Next item on the agenda is going to be public comments. Is there any? I'm going to ask Mrs. Hall if she will explain the public comment procedure and policy.
The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing the public to speak to the board on any matter which is not scheduled for public hearing at this meeting. To help conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, please refrain from clapping or other public demonstrations of support or opposition. The public comment period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the board or question and answer period with the board. Remarks shall be addressed only to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. All public comments shall be made in a respectful manner. Cursing and antagonistic behavior are prohibited and shall be grounds for removal from the meeting. Comments should focus on matters or issues before the board or county and not individual board members or staff. Comments which single out an individual board member or staff may be ruled out of order by the chair. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and voting district, if applicable. There shall be a time limit for each individual speaker of 3 minutes. No speaker shall address the board more than once during the public comment period at any single board meeting. The county administrator will time the speakers and notify them when their time has expired, and copies of the detailed rules are located on the back table.
Public comment period is now open. Anyone that would like to address the board on any issue at all, please come forward. Dr. Anderson, how are you this evening?
Mary Anderson, Western Caroline. Mr. Akers,
Good to see you.
gentlemen, I have learned that you all are...
You want to pull that down just a little bit? Yeah,
Now is it working?
that's good.
All right. That you are able to give 6% raises to those employees in the county who are covered by the Virginia retirement system. And you are now proposing to give raises to your hourly employees. That's terrific, and I'm glad that you can do that. When we expected level funding for the schools, we found that by cutting costs severely in every other area, we were going to be able to give a 6% raise across the board. That would give those employees covered by the Virginia retirement system a teeny raise, and those not covered by the retirement system would get the full 6%, and they have been woefully underpaid for years, and we were really pleased. Now that we find that we're going to be cut $350,000, the situation we're in, all we can give to those employees covered by the Virginia retirement system is the 5.7% state mandated, and nothing for those who are not covered. I'm genuinely glad that you all are able to make life better for the county employees, and I have every hope that next year we'll be able to do it for the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue not covered by a public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue not covered by a public hearing this evening? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board on any issue not covered by a public hearing this evening? Hearing no further comments, the public comment period is closed. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. Proposed amendments of Chapter 5 of the Code of Caroline County Election Districts to incorporate changes to voting precinct locations in Bowling Green, Madison, and Western Caroline voting districts, as recommended by the Caroline County Electoral Board. I'm not sure who is going to, Mr. Fincham?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your public hearing tonight is a proposed amendment to the election district ordinance and maps. And as you correctly stated, there are very specific modifications to the ordinance. One is to relocate the North and South Madison precinct polling places from the Caroline County Diversified Learning Center to Lewis and Clark Elementary School. The second amendment is to relocate the Childsburg precinct polling place from the Rehoboth United Methodist Church to County Line Baptist Church. And the third is to adjust the precinct boundary between the Lake and Childsburg precincts to provide for a more equitable population distribution between those two precincts. That is the public hearing before you tonight. If you recall, there were several other proposals the board chose not to go forward with those requested changes. So these are the changes specific to the public hearing tonight.
How about the Bowling Green District? What's the change on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that. The Bowling Green District, we also did adjust a boundary between the Sparta precinct and the Bowling Green precinct so that the 301, the people living on 301 could come to Bowling Green and not have to go all the way to Sparta.
All right. Other comments from the board or questions from the board? Mr. Black?
Mr. Fincham, I got a quick question for you. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do here. The only question I have, and we had talked about this a little bit today, what is the reason, like in my particular district, the Western Caroline District, that someone can't just get a card that says Western Caroline District? Why do we have to have a Charlesburg precinct and a Lake precinct? I'm still kind of confused on that, because I think during the election time and so forth, I mean, I just got a card in the mail again, and I think it's going to be, for the people on the Lake Heritage side of Lake Landor, it's going to be changing, and there's going to be some confusion on that. I mean, that'll be clarified over several elections, but what is the reason why they can't, everyone from, any street in Lake Landor to Charlesburg Road can't get a card just saying Western Caroline District, and we have one precinct?
Mr. Dodd could probably address that question better than I, being the representative from the electoral board. However, my understanding, and when we were going through preparing the ordinance, Department of Justice has guidance on your precinct sizes and your district sizes. And once you reach a certain threshold, their standards dictate whether you have one precinct or two or three or five, depending on the population in the district.
Yeah, okay.
So it's regulations or guidance or standards from the federal government that dictate when you have to have multiple precincts.
Even though they're voting in the same, I mean, because
That's correct.
they're voting in the same place.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, Mr. Black, I'm Park Dodd. The Electoral Board, one of the reasons, or the main reason that we moved from Charlesburg was to redistribute the voters, the numbers of voters at a precinct. There was only about 700 at Charlesburg, and at the school down at the church, we had about 15 or 1,600. And we're trying to make it equal so you don't have people standing in line for one precinct. And another area that was a problem, the parking. And you were not, I guess you went through the 08 election and the turnout we had, and we hope we have an excellent turnout this election. But at the same time, we need parking, and there's limited parking at the church down there. And also to get people up the steps and in and out is a narrow hallway. So it just made a lot of sense for us to change it, put both of them in the county line church, and that way we redistribute the voters and get them through the line quicker and out and make it easier for them.
Right, and I have no problem. I mean, I think that's great that they're being combined. But I guess my question is, when someone gets a voter card, their card is going to say Charlesburg, or their card is going to say Lake.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, because it's the mailing going on, I'm wondering why you have to have two precincts in the same district. Why can't you just, no matter where you are, if you're in that Western Caroline district, your card just can't say Western Caroline? Because like on the Lake Landor, for example, someone on the Landor side is going to have something that says Lake, and then someone on the Heritage side is going to have something that's Charlesburg.
Right. That's exactly right.
And I'm just wondering why you can't have everyone in the district just have, because we're voting in the same place, so why you can't have a card that just says Western Caroline?
Well, one of the main reasons we cannot, if we have over 3,000 in a precinct, we have to split the precincts.
Okay.
These are the rules.
All right.
So when you combine the two, you'd have over the 3,000.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Dodd. Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Anybody else have any questions? I believe everybody else is okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Dodd, we haven't submitted this to the Justice Department yet because we haven't voted on it, right?
That's right. You have to vote on it tonight, so we would like to get it in pretty quick because they have 60 days of which to come back, and we would like all of this for the November election.
So the earliest possible time we could really hear something back from them is the beginning of September, which gives us a month to send out new voting cards and then a month to vote.
New voting cards will be mailed out, The state of Virginia, our governor has said in the late October or middle of October, new voting cards will be sent to everybody in the state of Virginia. So if you're changed now, you'll have a new voting card. So if you get one in the mail and you have one, just destroy the one you have and go by the new one. I'd like to make another comment. We're real sorry that we could not change the precinct over there at the visitor center, because it's going to be a problem with traffic. And I've talked to our Sheriff Tony, and he's going to help us out. Maybe next time we can get this thing switched, and we'll be able to do that. Now, understand now we can't. We can't add it to this, and we wouldn't have time for another public hearing so we could run through the system again to make it this time. But we do the best we can with what we have. And we want a good turnout. We want a safe turnout. And I know some of the people that worked over there are really concerned about it, and I think you'll hear from one of them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before I open the public hearing? The public hearing is declared open. Anyone would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this change, please come forward. Give your name and voting district. Ms. Madiak, how are you this evening?
Good evening. My name is Shirley Madiak, and I have my voting card. I am an assistant chief at the Visitor Center, Welcoming Center, and I would like to express my concerns that we have there. It is not a valid place that we can secure for a presidential election. We have had visitors that come in, and that was put there for the facility of people coming through the county to welcome them, to use that facility. And I don't feel that I can justify turning these people away and saying, no, you cannot use the restroom here. We are voting, when we have 20 people to come in last time and vote. We can, if the federal people were to see what we were doing, then they would probably have a problem with that. I can't turn away people that are in wheelchairs. I can't turn away children that would come because they were out of school that day. They want to see the whale that's in there. I find it very difficult, and we try to work with them, and we're able to watch them. President election, we will not be able to do that. I can't see how you can justify sending people that live across the road 25 miles to another precinct to vote when we are not in our own precinct voting. We're in someone else's precinct voting. But yet, if they come in ours, we'll say, you can't vote here. You've got to go 25 miles over to Bowling Green and vote. And I just don't see how you can justify that. I hope that you will take into consideration this. I don't understand why it cannot be changed before the presidential election. This is an accident waiting to happen down there. Without a doubt, I stand there and I watch the trucks come in and out of there and the people that will be coming to vote. It is not an adequate facility. It is not an adequate parking place, and it is not an adequate situation for us to try to secure votes the way they should be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Madiak. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board in favor of or in opposition to this proposed amendment? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board in favor of or in opposition to this proposed amendment? Hearing no further comment, the public hearing is declared closed. I guess the first question I would have is the fact that, and I certainly have understood what Mrs. Madiak has said and heard clearly what she said. We close the schools for voting. Why can we not close the visitor center for voting on that one day out of the year? Mr. Wilson, I guess I'm addressing my question to you since you're in charge of the visitor center. Huh?
Or use his sign,
yeah. Yeah.
Sir, in effect, we are closed. the fact is that the doors are unlocked, so voters can get into the building. We have no way to sort out who's coming into the building to vote or to do something else. And if we were to put somebody in there, I guess we could try to sort out once they've gotten into the building, which is, again, a complexity that the building's simply not designed to allow that kind of parsing out of who is there to do what. So we don't have the ability to actually stop that kind of traffic for this facility during that time. We do not encourage anyone to come in. We don't have the facility manned on that side because they would be an impediment to the voting process. We don't have the store open, those kind of things. We try to make sure that those activities are expressed. But as far as traffic goes, who comes and goes, for what reason, that we can't predetermine.
Okay, so it's the mechanics that we need to work out rather than whether we can or cannot do it. It is strictly the mechanics. I would suggest, and I'm not sure what the other board is thinking, but I would suggest that we either have someone stand, there's an entrance into the into the building is to have someone stand there and check, or have off and on during the day people check voter cards. If you have a voter card, I would certainly think we could put a sign out front that says "closed to the public." I think there are things that we can do if we want to do them, and that is my suggestion that we do that. I don't know when it's going to get changed. It may never get changed. It's going to depend on the board, and certainly requests from the electoral board as to what we do. But I don't see that we have to worry about being chastised and maybe fined by the Justice Department because we are allowing people to intermingle with each other, whether they are voters or not, or non-voters, people out of state. So if we want to correct the problem, we can correct the problem. It's just a matter of how we do it. So I would suggest, and I don't know what the other board members, but I would suggest that we work to correct the problem and not look at the problem not being correctable, because it is correctable.
Right. Well,
Okay.
I understand that. I mean, perhaps there could be police presence at the front door or something like that.
If we can get the sheriff to work with us, I mean, possible that's something that can be done. I don't know. But I think just checking a voter card, if they have the voter card, they have to show it once they get inside. Correct, Ms. Madiak? They have to show the ID or the voter card. So once they get inside, they have to have it available. And so why not do it before they get inside? Mr. Underwood, you had a comment or question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I certainly spent actually 3 days looking at traffic over the 4th of July holiday as well as over the past weekend. And I talked to Mr. Dowd regarding some of the issues, and maybe hindsight, certainly, it is definitely a safer venue to move it elsewhere. But for this election, my concern was confusion of voters. That was always my concern. I believe there are things that we can do to mitigate issues during the election, but certainly I think long-term we will definitely look for another solution.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, other questions or comments from the board? Hearing no further comments or questions of the board, is there a motion to approve the proposed amendments of Chapter 5, the Code of Caroline County, which basically changes the locations for the Madison precincts, the North and South Madison precincts. It certainly changes the Western Caroline precinct, and probably changes some lines as far as where people, which precinct they're going to vote in. And I think in Bowling Green, it's probably doing some of the same things in Bowling Green. Is there a motion to approve these amendments?
I'll make a motion to adjust the boundaries and adjust the polling locations as presented by the electoral board and staff.
Is there a second to that motion? I'm going to declare the motion dead in a minute if we don't have a second.
Second.
All right, motion's been seconded by Mr. Black. Motion made by Mr. Seeley. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The
Go ahead.
attorney says that we really ought to we're approving this ordinance as presented, so make
Okay.
sure that's clear in your motion.
Okay. That's what your motion says, right, Mr. Seeley?
And that's why you know, as presented by, and again, the electoral board and staff has actually presented the ordinance. And I will make that as the motion, that the ordinance as presented.
Mr. Black, that's what your second is for, correct?
Second.
All right. Further discussion on the motion. All in favor of this ordinance amendment, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
I'm going to vote nay, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Chair,
I think I was the only nay.
let's make sure. Black, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Vote nay.
And I vote aye as well. Motion is approved on a 5-1 vote.
I just think, Mr. Chairman, if you allow me that,
Sure.
if I thought it was a bad idea to change any precinct, I think it's a bad idea to change all of them so close to the election. It's going to cause confusion, and I'm trying to prevent confusion, but
Okay.
there'll be no confusion in matter for 9, at least for this year.
Got you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 5, update on Don wastewater project Phase 1 housing rehabilitation. Mr. White?
Good evening, gentlemen. Mr. Cully and Mr. Parton and Mr. Underwood, since the last meeting when we had the citizenry voicing their concerns about the homes down there, we've had another meeting, and I've put together a presentation that I provided everybody on what currently exists down there, the inspections that were done, not only by the building department, but by Quinn Rivers in accordance with HUD. What we found is some nuisance items that we're currently addressing. There's 3 or 4 of them. Ms. Green with her air conditioning we have solved. Talked with Mr. Harry tonight. That item is put to bed. 2 or 3 other little items that my inspectors and I are going to go down and correct. But the large number of items that were indicated by those that came are simply not there, and I've provided all that data in the presentation books. So I just wanted to get it out that, yes, procedure was followed, they were inspected. Homes, they did have some issues, they failed, they were corrected, all of that is within the presentation. And with that, I'll answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions by staff? I'm sorry, by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say that the small presentation was a little overwhelming. I spent some time leafing through it, and I will tell you that I was amazed at the completeness of the inspections, and all of the inspection material that was provided was phenomenal. I couldn't believe we got that much in that short a period of time.
Other comments, other questions? Mr. Whiteman, before we move on. Mr. Whiteman, thank you a lot. Appreciate
Yes, sir.
it. Under new business, proposed change in EMS fee for service program to pursue non-payment from non-county residents to the fullest extent of the law. Chief, how are you this evening?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Caroline County has a long-established fee-for-service on the EMS side. When we run an EMS call in the county, we charge the allowable Medicare rate for BLS and ALS Type 1 and Type 2 calls uniformly. In 2002, the Office of the Inspector General made a ruling that residents within a county could use local tax money to waive any co-payments or any other amounts owed under that fee-for-service program. And in Caroline County, that's essentially what we do for our residents. And I'll read to you. All co-pays are immediately negated based on the resident's status as a taxpayer. The county's uninsured residents will qualify for a billing waiver based on their taxpayer status. They will receive a bill as required by the insurance regulations, along with a copy of that resident waiver form. That's what we do for our residents. We send out a bill. Insurance pays what portion, or Medicare pays what portion they have, and because they are paying taxes, we write off any other fees associated with that cost of that transport. That leaves non-county residents kind of open. We don't have any practice that addresses what we do with non-county residents that use our service and that we charge. We essentially now allow them, we don't go after that copay, or that we don't go after that piece that insurance does not pay to the individual out-of-county person. What I'm proposing to the board is, within our current practice,
we can have a policy change that allows us to seek full payment from out-of-county residents for services that they receive here in Caroline County. That would generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 to $8,000